AITA for refusing to babysit my sister's kids after she publicly called me irresponsible in front of our whole family. Last weekend was supposed to be one of those rare, magical evenings that I had been looking forward to for weeks. I am 26 years old, and while I am not living some wild, party-filled life, I do try to carve out moments for myself whenever I can. My life has been tied closely to my older sister Emma, who is 34 and has 3 children, a 7-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 2-year-old. I love them to pieces. I really do. But over the last few years, especially since Emma became a single mom, I have found myself stepping into this unofficial role of her go-to babysitter. It started small, watching the kids for an hour here or there when she needed to run to the store or pick someone up from school. But over time, it spiraled into something much bigger, something I never agreed to. For context, Emma and I have always had a close relationship. Growing up, she was the big sister who looked out for me. When she got married and started having kids, I was thrilled for her. I threw myself into being the fun, hands-on aunt. I would babysit whenever she asked because I wanted to help her out, and I thought that was what family was for. But when her marriage ended, things changed. Emma was suddenly juggling work, childcare, and all the chaos of raising 3 young kids on her own. I know it was overwhelming for her. And without ever really saying it outright, she began to lean on me more and more. At first, I was happy to help. I understood that she needed support, and I wanted to be there for her. But as the months turned into years, I started to feel like I was being pulled deeper into her world without any consideration for my own life. Emma started calling me last minute to watch the kids for hours on end, usually so she could have a break or run errands in peace. Sometimes, it was for legitimate reasons, like a work meeting or a doctor's appointment, but more often than not, it was because she wanted to decompress. And while I understood her need for that, it often came at the cost of my own plans. I cannot even count how many times I have cancelled outings with friends, skipped events, or rearranged my schedule because Emma needed me. I never complained because I thought I was doing the right thing. But last weekend, everything came to a head. One of my closest friends was celebrating her birthday, and we had been planning the night for weeks. It was going to be an amazing girls' night at a fancy restaurant, followed by karaoke, a rare opportunity to unwind and have some fun. I was so excited. For once, I had something just for me, something to look forward to. I told Emma about it well in advance so that she would not expect me to babysit that night. I thought I had covered my bases. The day of the party, Emma texted me in the afternoon. She asked if I could watch the kids for just a few hours, because she needed to recharge. I was sympathetic but firm. I told her I could not because I had plans that night. She did not push back, so I assumed she found someone else or figured out a way to manage on her own. I went to the party, had an amazing time, and felt a little guilty for how relieved I was to just enjoy myself without any responsibilities. The next day, we had a family dinner. It was one of those big gatherings with our parents, aunts, uncles, and cousins, a full house. I was chatting with one of my cousins when Emma suddenly started speaking loudly, addressing the whole room. At first, I thought she was telling a funny story, but then I realized she was talking about me. In front of everyone, Emma said I was irresponsible and self-centered, and accused me of not knowing what it means to be an adult because I do not have kids of my own. She said she sacrifices everything for her children while I party around like a teenager. She went on, painting me as someone who does not care about family and only thinks about herself. I was stunned. I could feel my face burning as everyone stared at me. I tried to defend myself, but she kept cutting me off, saying I had no idea what she was going through as a single mom and that family should always come first. By the time she was done, I was on the verge of tears. I excused myself and left the room, feeling humiliated and heartbroken. Later that night, I texted Emma and told her I was done babysitting until she apologized and started treating me with respect. I explained that I love her and the kids, but I cannot keep sacrificing my own life to be her stand-in parent. Her response was explosive. She accused me of abandoning her and said I was being cruel and selfish. She kept throwing the word family around, saying that families should always support each other no matter what. To make matters worse, our mom called me the next day and sided with Emma. She said I needed to let it go because Emma is under a lot of stress and needs my help. She told me I should have more compassion and stop acting like a victim. I tried to explain my side, but she would not hear it. Now I feel like I am stuck between a rock and a hard place. I understand that Emma is going through a lot, but I cannot keep living like this. I have my own life, my own responsibilities, and my own mental health to think about. I feel guilty for setting this boundary because I know how much Emma relies on me, but I also feel like she has been taking advantage of me. I am not her co-parent. I am her sister. I love her kids, but I cannot be the one to pick up the pieces every time she needs a break. I need her to respect my time and my choices, and I need our family to stop making me feel like the bad guy for wanting to have a life of my own. So now, I am left wondering, am I the bad sister for saying enough is enough? Or is it fair for me to set this boundary, even if it means upsetting the people I love? Update 1. After our big argument at the family dinner, I naively thought Emma would back off, or at least give me some space to breathe. I hoped she would take some time to reflect, maybe even realize how much she had been relying on me and how unfair it was to expect me to drop everything for her. But I should have known better. Emma doesn't let go of things easily, and this was no exception. About a week after the blow-up, she called me out of the blue. Her voice was shaky, and I could tell she had been crying. She sounded so vulnerable, and my heart softened instantly. She said she was overwhelmed and needed someone to talk to. Part of me thought, maybe this is it. Maybe she's finally ready to acknowledge what I've been feeling. I sat down, prepared to listen, thinking this might be the olive branch we both needed. But it wasn't. Almost as soon as I reassured her that I was there to listen, the conversation took a sharp turn. Instead of talking about her feelings or asking how we could fix things, she launched into a tirade about how selfish I was for not helping her anymore. She said she was drowning and that as her sister, it was my responsibility to step in when she needed me. She made it sound like my decision to set boundaries was some kind of personal attack on her and her kids. Then she hit me with a line that absolutely floored me. Do you know how lucky you are to have my kids in your life? Most people would do anything to spend time with their nieces and nephews. You're getting hands-on experience with parenting for free. One day, when you have children of your own, you'll thank me. I sat there in stunned silence, trying to process what she had just said. Was she serious? Was she really trying to frame her constant demands as some kind of favor to me? It felt like she was completely dismissing all the sacrifices I had made over the past few years to support her. The canceled plans, the sleepless nights, the mental load of constantly being on call, all of it was being twisted into this narrative where I was the one who should be grateful. It was maddening. When I finally gathered myself enough to respond, I calmly reminded her that I love her kids dearly, but I never signed up to be a second parent. I told her that while I've always been happy to help, it's not fair for her to expect me to put my life on hold every time she needs a break. Her response? She scoffed. Actually scoffed. Then she said, in this condescending tone, that I wouldn't understand until I grew up. That was the last straw for me. I told her I wasn't changing my mind, wished her well, and hung up. It wasn't an angry or dramatic exit, I didn't yell or say anything cruel. I just couldn't do it anymore. I was done being guilt-tripped into sacrificing my time and energy for someone who clearly didn't appreciate it. That evening, I thought I could finally breathe, but of course, the peace didn't last long. My mom called me, as she always seems to do when Emma and I have a disagreement. I could tell by her tone that she wasn't happy with me. She launched into this long-winded lecture about how Emma is struggling and how I need to be the bigger person. She said that Emma is doing her best as a single mom and that I should be more understanding. The kicker. She told me I needed to apologize. I couldn't believe it. Apologize? For what? For finally standing up for myself after years of being taken advantage of? For daring to have a life of my own? It felt like no one in my family cared about how much this situation was impacting me. All they seemed to see was a single mom who needed help, and in their eyes, I was the bad guy for setting boundaries. I tried to explain my side to my mom, but she wasn't hearing it. Every time I brought up how much I had already done for Emma, she dismissed it, saying things like, "That's just what family does," or, "It's not a competition." It felt like no matter what I said, I was wrong. Emma's struggles were always front and center, while mine were ignored. I was expected to keep giving and giving, with no consideration for my own well-being. After that call, I felt completely drained. I started replaying everything in my head, questioning whether I was really being selfish. Was I a bad sister for setting boundaries? Was I failing Emma and her kids? The guilt was overwhelming, but so was the frustration. I couldn't shake the feeling that my family was taking me for granted. They didn't see me as a person with my own life and needs, they saw me as a resource, someone who was there to pick up the slack whenever Emma needed help. The worst part was that I started to resent Emma, and I hated that. I didn't want to feel that way about my own sister. I know she's been through a lot, and I know how hard it must be to raise 3 kids on her own. But that doesn't mean she gets to dump all of her responsibilities on me and then act like she's doing me a favor. It doesn't mean she gets to belittle me in front of our family or call me selfish for wanting to live my own life. Since that call, things have been tense. Emma hasn't reached out, and I haven't either. My mom keeps calling, though, trying to mediate and pushing me to fix things. She keeps saying things like, "You'll regret it if you let this come between you and your sister." But I can't help feeling like it's not my job to fix this. I've done everything I can to support Emma, and it's never enough. I can't keep sacrificing my own happiness just to keep the peace. Update 2. The situation with Emma reached an entirely new level of chaos a few weekends later, and to this day, I still cannot believe how it unfolded. I had been trying to reclaim some semblance of normalcy in my life after our argument and the heated phone calls that followed. I was starting to feel like I could breathe again, like I was finally allowed to prioritize myself without constant guilt. That weekend, one of my friends was hosting a cozy game night at her place, just a small gathering of close friends, board games, snacks, and laughter. It was the kind of low-key, joyful evening I hadn't had in far too long, and I was looking forward to it all week. The night started perfectly. We were an hour in, everyone laughing as we debated the rules of a particularly competitive card game. For the first time in weeks, I wasn't thinking about Emma or the drama with my family. I felt present, happy, and at ease. But then, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Emma. At first, I hesitated to even look. I knew that whenever her name popped up, it was rarely good news. But a part of me still felt obligated, like maybe this time it was something urgent. When I opened the message, my stomach dropped. She asked where I was. I replied, letting her know I was at a friend's house, thinking maybe she just wanted to talk or had something important to share. But her next message completely blindsided me. She was outside my apartment. She needed me to watch the kids for a few hours. My heart sank. I couldn't believe she would just show up unannounced, especially after everything we'd already been through. I immediately called her, hoping to stop whatever plan she had in mind, but she didn't pick up. Instead, another text came through. She had left the kids with my neighbor. I felt a wave of panic and fury all at once. I didn't even know what to say or think. My sweet elderly neighbor, who barely knows Emma or the kids, had been dragged into this mess because Emma decided to drop her children off without warning. I grabbed my coat and bag, muttered a quick apology to my friends, and rushed out the door. The drive back to my apartment felt like an eternity. My mind raced with a mix of anger and worry. How could she do this? What was she thinking? When I got to my building, I found my neighbor sitting in the hallway with the kids. She looked flustered and overwhelmed, holding the 2-year-old while the other 2 sat quietly, clearly confused and unsure of what was happening. My neighbor explained that Emma had shown up, handed her the kids, and left before she could say anything. I apologized profusely, thanked her for stepping in, and brought the kids inside. The kids were clearly unsettled. They kept asking for their mom, wondering why she wasn't there. I tried my best to stay calm for their sake, but inside, I was furious. This wasn't just irresponsible, it was downright cruel. I texted Emma repeatedly, demanding that she come back immediately, but she didn't respond. Hours passed. I fed the kids, got them ready for bed, and tried to keep them distracted, all while seething with anger. When Emma finally responded, it wasn't an apology or an explanation. She casually mentioned that she was out with friends and needed a break. She even had the audacity to remind me that, this is what family is supposed to do. I couldn't believe her lack of remorse or accountability. It was as if she truly believed she was entitled to dump her responsibilities onto me whenever she felt like it. That night, as I sat on the couch with her kids asleep in the next room, I realized I couldn't keep doing this. Emma's behavior had gone from inconsiderate to outright dangerous. What if my neighbor hadn't been home? What if something had happened to the kids while Emma was off enjoying her night out? This wasn't just about me anymore, it was about the safety and well-being of her children. The next morning, I made a decision. I texted Emma and told her in no uncertain terms that if she ever pulled a stunt like that again, I would involve child services. I knew it was harsh, and part of me felt sick at the thought of escalating things to that level. But I also knew that Emma needed to understand the seriousness of her actions. Her kids deserved better than to be treated like an afterthought, and I deserved better than to be her safety net. Update 3. The fallout from Emma's unannounced drop-off of her kids was everything I feared and more. After my text warning her that I would involve child services if she ever pulled a stunt like that again, Emma exploded. My phone lit up with an endless stream of angry messages, each one more venomous than the last. She accused me of being dramatic, of overstepping, and of betraying her when she needed me most. She called me ungrateful and selfish and even threatened to cut me out of her life entirely if I didn't get over myself. It was exhausting. But for once, I didn't cave. I responded only once, reiterating that I wasn't going to be her backup parent anymore. Beyond that, I refused to engage. She could throw all the tantrums she wanted, but I was done being dragged into her chaos. The silence between us didn't last long. A week later, my dad, who had been uncharacteristically quiet throughout all of this, reached out and asked me to come over for a family discussion. I was hesitant. I didn't trust that this wouldn't just be another ambush where I'd be guilt-tripped into submission, but my dad sounded calm and measured, so I reluctantly agreed. I hoped, deep down, that maybe this was an opportunity to finally set things straight and put an end to the constant cycle of drama. When I arrived, Emma was already there, along with both of my parents. The air in the room was heavy, charged with unspoken tension. I could tell from the way Emma was glaring at me that this wasn't going to be easy. As soon as I sat down, she started in on me, her voice rising with every word. She accused me of abandoning her and her kids, of not understanding what it meant to be a family, of being selfish and immature. It was the same tired script I had heard a dozen times before, but this time it was louder, angrier, more desperate. I let her speak without interrupting, though every word stung. When she finally finished, the room went quiet, and all eyes turned to me. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to stay calm. Then, I explained my side of the story. I laid everything out, starting from the beginning, how much I had done for her over the years, how many times I had cancelled my own plans to step in and help, how I had been happy to do it for a long time because I loved her and her kids. But I also told her that I couldn't keep sacrificing my own life for hers. I wasn't their parent, and I never had been. I told her that while I understood how hard it was to be a single mom, it wasn't fair to put all of that responsibility on me. I needed her to understand that she had to find other support systems, whether that meant hiring a babysitter, enrolling the kids in daycare, or reaching out to friends. I was willing to help occasionally, but I couldn't be her crutch anymore. The silence that followed was deafening. For the first time, Emma didn't immediately jump in with a rebuttal. Instead, she just stared at me, her face a mixture of anger and disbelief. Before she could respond, my dad spoke up, and what he said completely changed the trajectory of the conversation. He told Emma, point blank, that I was right. He said that she had been leaning on me far too much and that it wasn't fair or sustainable. He acknowledged how hard her situation was but emphasized that it was her responsibility to figure out how to manage it, not mine. He pointed out that I had already gone above and beyond for her and that continuing to rely on me the way she had been would only strain our relationship further. Emma looked stunned. I could see her trying to process what he was saying, but it was clear she wasn't prepared for this. My mom tried to jump in, likely to defend Emma, but my dad quickly shut her down. He told her that this had gone too far and that it was time for Emma to take responsibility for her own life and her children's needs. He even mentioned that she should consider looking into professional help, whether that meant therapy for herself or resources for single parents in her area. For the first time in this entire ordeal, I felt like someone in my family was actually on my side. Hearing my dad acknowledge everything I had been feeling validated me in a way I hadn't expected. It wasn't just about taking my side, it was about someone finally recognizing how unfair the situation had been and calling it out for what it was. Emma, however, didn't take it well. She stood up abruptly, grabbed her things, and stormed out of the house without saying another word. My mom looked torn, unsure whether to follow her or stay, but my dad firmly told her to let Emma go. He assured me afterward that he would talk to her one-on-one and try to get through to her. For the first time in weeks, I felt a glimmer of hope that things might actually change. The next few days were quiet. Emma didn't reach out, and I didn't either. I assumed she was still angry, but I also hoped that my dad's words had sunk in. Later, he told me that he had a long conversation with her, during which he emphasized the importance of building a more sustainable support system. He encouraged her to reach out to local organizations, look into affordable childcare options, and lean on other friends instead of placing all of the burden on me. He told her that while it was okay to ask for help, she needed to respect my boundaries and stop treating me like her co-parent. It wasn't an easy conversation, he admitted. Emma was defensive at first, insisting that I had overreacted and that she didn't have any other options. But as the conversation went on, she started to soften. My dad said he could see the cracks in her armor, the moments when she realized he was right but didn't want to admit it. By the end, she agreed, reluctantly, to start looking for other solutions. It's been a few weeks now, and while Emma and I aren't as close as we used to be, things are starting to improve. She's hired a part-time babysitter and enrolled the kids in an after-school program, which has taken some of the pressure off. As for me, I've been focusing on rebuilding my social life and setting boundaries with my family. I still spend time with my nieces and nephew, but now it's on my terms, no last-minute drop-offs or guilt trips.